maybe the most confusing division in the NBA, let's talk about the Atlantic Division. Boy, do I have some thoughts about this draft, but let's jump into it and let's save the best for last. I want to start with the team that probably confused me the most in this entire draft, and that was the Brooklyn Nets. Just to give you a little recap here, at number 8, we have York Knicks. At number 19, we have Nolan Traore. At number 22, we had a pick with the Atlanta Hawks, and in exchange, we got Drake Powell back from North Carolina. At number 26, Ben Suraf. And at number 27, out of Michigan, Danny Wolf. And I want to be as clear as I could possibly be when I say this. Individually, I think all of these picks are pretty good. As a matter of fact, I think that Nolan Traore, if given the right opportunity, could be a top 5 performer in this year's draft. My problem is that you decided to draft all of them in the same draft, and 4 of them do the exact same thing, being a primary ball handler. This may deserve a different video entirely, but I don't think the drafting is really that hard. The Nets had the opportunity to draft 5 players. When was the last time that you can think of that a team that drafted 5 rookies won anything? This isn't 2K. You don't have to do that. If it were me, I would have tried to package 8, 19, and 22 to move up into the top 3. And if I couldn't do that, if I was absolutely sure that I could not move up in this draft and I wanted York Knicks at number 8, I would have then packaged 19, 22, and potentially 27 and 26 as well to move back into the draft or get future draft capital. There's real scenarios where we're talking about the 8th and 10th pick being in Brooklyn because they packaged those other 4 picks. You don't have to do this to yourself, Brooklyn. And when you're drafting, you shouldn't be guessing. You shouldn't be doing a guessing game. If you think that this person who doesn't have good intangibles, who doesn't have good stats, could be the next Nikola Jokic, I don't think you need to be taking that gamble because you know what's going to happen? They are going to fail and it's going to cost you your job. When you're drafting, you should say, this is the baseline of a player and he will never be this bad again. And listen, I'm not immune to believing in a prospect too much to a fault. I was once a believer in James Young out of Kentucky. I was convinced that he was going to be the next Ray Allen, but there's a reason that you don't hire me to be the GM of your basketball team. But a lot of these GMs and a lot of these drafts are acting like me and believing in something that they shouldn't. So again, I don't think that individually these picks were bad. It just doesn't make sense to have them all on the same team. It's kind of hard to transition out of that, but I'll do my best. At number 51, the New York Knicks picked Mohamed Diawara, and I kind of see why you picked him. Now, I think the Knicks have a lot going on. They are obviously trying to reach aspirations of an NBA championship. They're trying to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals, and if they're going to do that, I don't see Mohamed playing a whole lot of minutes. But again, when you are blessed with talent like that, you can take a flyer at the end of the second round. For the 51st pick, you drafted a 6'8" guy with a 7'4" wingspan. I definitely see the vision. Will he play in the G League? Probably. Are you going to draft and stash him? Maybe. But someday, down the line, maybe we get to see Mohamed play. You know, as a Celtics fan, I'm supposed to hate the Philadelphia 76ers. And I do, but they had a pretty good draft. Let's work backwards here because I want to talk about VJ last. Johni Broome, at one point, was the best college player in the entire land. Now, Cooper Flagg did kind of snatch his chain after the Christmas break, but we won't have to talk about that. Now, I certainly don't think that Johni is going to be the best player in this draft, but he may be the most NBA ready. Johni was obviously a 5-year guy, and his last year at Auburn, he averaged 18, 10, and 2 blocks a game, shooting pretty decently from the floor. Not a three-point shooter, mind you, but 51% from the floor is pretty good. And yeah, he's not super athletic. There are more upside players that were drafted after him, but if you want someone that can compete for a team right now, to play reliable minutes right now, I don't think you could have done any better than Johni Broome. I think you have to polish his game a little bit. I think that there's an opportunity for him to play in the G League a lot, depending on what they decide to do with the guys like Paul George. But there is an opportunity for him to play significant minutes on this team. And then you have VJ Edgecombe, who reminds me a lot of Anthony Edwards and Dwayne Wade. Now, of course, that is really lofty expectations to put on an 18, 19-year-old. And I'm not even saying that he needs to live up to those expectations, but his play style is very reminiscent of those two. Really showed out at Baylor, too, averaging 15-5 with 2 steals a game. Again, like a lot of rookies in this class, his efficiencies need work, but he is so fast and he is so athletic that he will be able to beat people to the rim and probably live at the free throw line. I don't want to say anything about the Paul Georges and the Joel Embiids of it all for Philadelphia, but the young core that you now have with Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and Jared McCain is really, really nice. Now, the Toronto Raptors also had a pretty confusing draft, but I feel like that was more external than internal. Of course, Masai Ujiri is now out. He is not the GM of the Toronto Raptors anymore, but he still went ahead with the draft. They knew about that decision in early June and still let him complete the draft. Pretty confusing on my part. And it does not help when your number 9 pick, Colin Murray-Boyles, appears to not be happy about being drafted by Toronto. But even if he wasn't happy about being drafted, I understand why you drafted him. Last year at South Carolina, 16-8 and shot 58% from the floor. Not very good from 3, mind you, but 58% from the floor. It confuses me a little extra just because he does play the forward, and as it currently stands, pending some trade, you have RJ Barrett, who plays a wing, Brandon Ingram, who hasn't played for the Toronto Raptors yet, but will, and then Scotty Barnes. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of minutes there for him. And I can't say this about every team, but it seems like they nailed their second-round pick better than they did their first-round pick. At 39, they picked up Elijah Martin out of Florida, and he's just a proven winner. He was on that FAU team 2 years ago that went to the Final Four and then won a national championship with Florida this year. And he was a 5-year guy, so he slipped a little bit in the draft. But when you were trying to eventually win, you need guys that are NBA ready, and I think Elijah might be. His last year at Florida for that championship team averaged 14 points with a steal and a half a game and shot 35% from 3, which isn't great, but it's definitely respectable. Now, I do think there's a little bit of a logjam at the guard spot. They have IQ, they have Jamal Sneed, they have Grady Dick, they have OJ Abaji. So it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle to crack a rotation, but when you were trying to beat out some bad habits in other players that may have the younger players on that team, if you can show experience, if you can show decorum within your practice ability, I think you can get a really early opportunity to play. And lastly, let's talk about my Boston Celtics. Now, this may be a little bit of a yap session because I did an extra deep dive on them, so you'll have to bear with me. We had pretty late picks. At 28, we picked up Hugo Gonzalez out of Real Madrid, the Spanish league. At 46, we picked up Amari Williams from Kentucky. And at number 57, we picked up Max Shulga from VCU. Now, while I would love to sit here and be the stereotypical Boston Celtics fan that says that Hugo Gonzalez is going to be a 5-time All-Star and lead the league in scoring, I just don't see that for him. What I do think he is going to be is a very good bench scorer. He has a uphill battle, to say the least, with Jaylen Brown, and potentially when Jason Tatum comes back, those forward spots are shored up. So he's going to have a tough time to crack the rotation. But with Jason Tatum out, maybe he establishes himself as a good, reliable piece. I've watched a lot of tape from him. I think that he is a very good ball handler. He can be that secondary or tertiary ball handler, especially on the bench. I think that he is a sneaky, a crafty defender. He's not a traditional shot blocker. Like, he'll do back taps on steals. He will block your shot from behind. He will defend the rim from the weak side position, but he's not traditionally a great one-on-one defender. I don't think that that's necessarily a detriment to him. I think that there are good defenders on this team, even though we don't have Jason Tatum and we don't have Drew Holiday anymore. So I think that his ability to be that weak side shot blocker, especially at the rim, I think it's going to be really valuable for him, and it's going to allow him to play early minutes. Amari Williams is probably one of my favorite archetypes in all of basketball, those shot blockers and rim runners. I love his game. Now, if you know me, I do have a soft spot for Kentucky players, and he is no exception. Also, side note, he picked number 77, and I think that's pretty cool. I think Amari has the opportunity to play a lot of minutes early on because we may lose Al Horford, and because we've already lost Luke Cornett, and because Neemias is fine. I think he's good. I don't want to pretend like he isn't, but he isn't this borderline all-star kind of center that you need. And just to be clear, I don't think that Amari is going to be that either, but when you are asking a rookie to play hustle minutes, when you need a rookie to have a high motor, this is the kind of scenario that you want him in. A little extra stats for you. He has a 6.1% block rate last year at Kentucky, which is huge. Just imagine out of 100 shots, he blocked 6 of them. And that's not including all the shots that he alters. He also has a 10% offensive rebounding rate, which is incredible. One of the things I love about him the most is that he is a fantastic passer. Even though he plays center, he can hit the dunker spot. He can hit the wide open corner 3. He has such good vision. He has such good feel for the game. And he has a 25% assist percentage, which means every 4th time that he passes, it turns into an assist. And with our last pick in the draft, I really like Max. I do. I'm not sure if he'll crack a rotation for this team, but the intangibles are there. He's very, very comfortable being the pick and roll ball handler. When he was on the floor for VCU last year, he had a 126 offensive rating, which is insane. I think there's an opportunity for him to play minutes on this team because without Drew Holiday, I think Peyton Pritchard may eventually take that starting point guard spot. And then the only person you're going to have to beat out as far as bench touches is Hugo Gonzalez. But if I was being very realistic with myself, I would have to imagine he spends a ton of time in the G League in Maine, and maybe he gets like the the Drew Peterson usage. Drew played like 14 or 15 games for us, and he came in when we were in a pinch. But again, because of the Jason Tatum injury, this Celtics season is probably lost and therefore wide open for these young players to make an impact. But that's going to do it for me today. Really appreciate everybody clicking on all these videos. Hopefully I got to your team pretty soon. I know that this came out during free agency, so the draft is probably behind us, but I needed to get all these thoughts off of my chest, and it wasn't going to be done through short form videos. Now that all 6 videos are out, you tell me who won the draft in the comments below. And while you're down there, check my link tree. Got Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. I have a Discord that I'd love for you to join. You can find me here on YouTube, obviously. Check all the links. I've got a couple scripts in mind for some future videos, so be sure that you're here to watch those. Be kind, tell somebody you love them, and I'll see you in the next one.